It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. This show is brought to you by emailrevealer.com. Go to emailrevealer.com. If you think your spouse is cheating on you, you give me their email address. We'll trace it back to any online dating websites. We can also help you out with any kind of computer or cell phone forensics you may need. If this is the first time you listen to our show, check out OppermanReport.com. We have over there a special members section where you can go and you can sign up, you can become a member, and we have exclusive content that you won't hear live on the Friday show or live on the Saturday show. Now, we got a really, really big show for you today. We have Joanne Mjadzelics, and she's described in the media usually as the ex-lover of Ian Watkins, who was this horrific character. Was probably one of the lowest people that you could imagine. You might recall he was what was the name of his band again?
Lost Prophets.
He was a part of a group in the UK that was popular over there, because I've never heard of him, called Lost Prophets. And he's convicted right now, serving about 30 years for child rape. So, Joanne, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, yeah.
Joanne Mjadzelics. Give us an idea. Who is Joanne Mjadzelics?
Oh, God. Have you got all night?
Yeah.
I could do the Cher song, couldn't I? I was born in a travelling show. But no. I did have a relationship of some sort with Ian Watkins, but I never called myself his girlfriend. The media called me that. Okay. I was just one of many that he was. Friends with benefits. I'm going to say that polite term, friends with benefits. But me, as in who I am, I have done a lot, been through a lot, done various careers ranging from being a stripper to being a police officer to being in the army. I've done quite a lot in my life, but the main thing that I'm known for is my 4-year fight against corrupt authorities to bring Ian Watkins to justice and his accomplices. It took me 4 years and it was a lone fight. Many people knew about him, but only I did something about him. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay, and you said you were a police officer at one time.
Yes, at one time I used to be a private banking manager, and at the same time as that, I was also a volunteer police officer, which meant that I did exactly the same job, I'd had exactly the same powers as a regular police officer, but I just didn't do it for any money.
Okay, all right, very good. And what do you do for a living right now?
I'm not working at the moment because I've got quite ill. I've got quite ill over the last couple of years, and it's left me incapable of doing anything really other than trying to survive.
Yeah, right. I saw something recently too. You have like a brain surgery or something, right?
No, I have a condition that affects my brain, and I've just deteriorated over the last few years. So yeah. Okay. We'll
ask the audience to pray for you for that, and we'll be praying for a miracle. We're believing in a miracle for you, complete healing, with that. Now, how did you come about to meet this guy, Ian Watkins?
Oh, I was on. Do you remember a website called MySpace?
I sure do. Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if it's still in existence now, but it used to be quite big about 10 years ago. And I was on there, and because I'd had quite a busy life, I'd had been getting on with my life, buying a house, having a child, being in the army and stuff, I'd not had chance to actually see any live band. Like normal teenagers now, they all go crazy, don't they? They're either crazy for computer games or crazy for bands. But I hadn't done any of that. So I thought, I want to see a band live. And I noticed on one of my friends' pages, they were playing, on MySpace you used to be able to play a song on your profile. If you clicked on someone's profile, you could hear whatever music they had linked to their account. One of my friends was playing this song, and I thought, oh, I like that. So I clicked on the song that was playing, and it went to the band's MySpace page, which was Lost Prophets. And I thought, I've never heard of them. And I read through the description, and it said they were claiming to be one of the best live bands, like, ever. And all this, self-promoting rubbish. But I fell for it, and I thought, oh, they must be really good live. So I messaged the band's page asking if they had any gigs coming up near where I lived. And I got a message back from someone. I didn't know who it was, but it turned out to be Ian Watkins. And we exchanged a few messages back and forth. And then he made a joke, which was a dirty joke, basically, asking it. He said to me, look, if you want to make dirty movies with me, just say. And I thought, weirdo. So I didn't respond to him. And I left it for a few months because I thought, you weirdo. And then a few months later, I got back in contact because I found out that the band were actually playing near where I was living at the time. And I asked if I could get any tickets because everywhere that I tried to get a ticket, they had sold out. So he ended up giving me his instant message contact details, and we messaged each other that way. I still didn't know who it was. To me, it was just whoever ran the MySpace page. And he said that he would put me and a friend on the guest list for their gig that was going to be at Leeds. And so we got chatting, and that's how it started, really. We just got chatting that way.
Now how old were you at that time?
31 at that time.
Okay. And on MySpace, I guess, because you had your picture was on MySpace, you had a couple of pictures of yourself.
Yeah, quite a few pictures, yeah.
Right, so that's how you got his attention.
Yeah.
Okay.
He saw the ones that were where I wasn't wearing very much. Because at that time, I mean, I'm 41 now. You grow up, don't you? Although at 31, you'd think I'd have grown up a bit. But at the time, I was also working on the side as a lap dancer, so there were quite saucy pictures on there.
Well, just for the record, you might want to send me those pictures just so we can look them over. Okay. As an official capacity here. Okay, so now you go, and then he sent you his AOL. He was on AOL.
He was on Instant Messenger on AOL, and also MSN Instant Messenger. Was it called MSN back then? I can't remember. It was years ago. You remember when Hotmail used to have their instant message? Was it called MSN?
I don't remember either. I don't even remember. I remember Yahoo had an instant messenger. I don't remember Hotmail having it.
Yeah, I never used it. I thought, right. What? I'm not using this rubbish because it irritates me. Instant messaging, it irritates me because you just think text messaging is bad enough, but instant messaging, it's like someone's permanently shouting hello in your face.
Right.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And then if you don't reply to them, they're like, hello, hello, hello.
It can become annoying, especially for women. They get a lot of unwanted contact on the internet.
Yeah.
So now, then what happens next? You meet him in person?
Yeah. A few months pass, and it's the date of the gig, which is in a city called Leeds, where I was living just outside of at the time. And we arranged to meet beforehand. So he comes to my hotel before the gig, and we meet. And he stays for a couple of hours, and then he goes to the gig, and then I go to the gig later with my friend. So that's how it began.
Okay, and was there any romance at that first meeting?
Not romance. That's been a bit polite.
Well, trying.
It was sex.
Okay. Okay, that's the rock star life. They enjoy that kind of life. That kind of access, right? So. Yeah. So then what happens next?
And then we keep in contact by text message and things. And he tells me that he wants to see me at Christmas. He wants to spend Christmas with me. But I tell him no. I make up an excuse. At that time, I don't tell him that I've got a son. And it's really strange because my son at the time was 10 years old, but I didn't tell him that he even existed. I didn't tell him for a few months, and people have accused me people have accused me of him only being interested in me because I had a child. That's not the case, because I kept it from him for a long time because I thought, well, why is he interested in me? He's really not going to be interested in me if he knows I'm a single mom. So I kept it from him, thinking it would put him off if he knew that I had a child. So that dispels that myth.
But let me ask you this, though. Is it possible that he could have looked at your MySpace and saw on your MySpace friends, saw your kid was on there?
No, because I don't put pictures of my children online.
Now, when you had sex with him that first time in the hotel room, was there any indication at that time that he had an interest in children or something?
No,
Nothing.
none at all. None at all. It was very normal for me.
Okay.
Because remember, I was 31. I'd been in the army. I was used to threesomes and things like that. Everything that he claimed to have done, tried to shock me with, it was all stories about threesomes and group sex that was coming from him at that time. And I thought, been there, done that. So none of it shocked me at all. It was only a year after that first meeting that he first began mentioning his interest in children, a year later.
Now you described that because you were in the military, that you were used to having threesomes. Now, how did that come about?
I
thought the Army was like to defend the country and stuff. What's going on over there?
When you have downtime and you've got nothing to do and you're not going home for a while, you've just got each other, really.
Okay, so there's a lot of sex in the UK military.
There's a lot of sex in any military, isn't there?
I've never been in the military. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There is. When you've got downtime and you've only got people that you're with, and you can't go, you can't go home. You can't go, you can't go home. You can't see whoever's at home. You can't go out on you're drinking and pull someone or anything.
Okay. So now, and then what was your next contact with Ian Watkins?
We just kept in contact by text and instant messaging and things, and then we saw each other again in February. So 2 months later, we saw each other again, and this time he had been saying to me, "Oh, I'm gonna bring 2 girls as well. I'm gonna bring 2 girls," and I thought, "You liar," but he did. The next time I saw him, I met him on my own, and then he said, I'm just going back to my room a second. And he went out of my hotel room, went to his hotel room, and came back with another girl. And she was about 19 years old, I think, at the time. And then another girl came and knocked on the door, and she was about the same age, about 19, 20 years old. So that happened.
How old was he?
At the time, 29.
Okay, he was 29, you were 31.
Yeah.
He brings over these 2 19-year-olds, and you're all having sex together.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything unusual that time?
No, nothing unusual at all. No mention of anything out of the ordinary. No.
Did you ever get a chance to talk to these girls like privately without him being around?
Only one of them, because when he left then, and the girls left, and he came back to see me on his own again. And then he left, and one of the girls came back because she'd left one of her rings in my room, and we had a little bit of a chat. She said her name, and I said my name, because we didn't even know each other's names before then.
Right.
So she told me her name, I told her my name, we had a little bit of a chat, and then she left.
A little bit of a chat, but nothing in detail, like how did you guys meet, how did he find you, or anything like that?
No.
Okay. So do you think he met those girls on the internet too as well?
I know that he met that girl because he spoke about her later on. Okay. He spoke about her and he told me how he met her, and this is when he made me feel a little bit sick, really.
Okay.
He told me he'd met this girl after a concert. He said that she was one of the fans that was waiting outside the back door of wherever they were on stage. And he handed her his phone number. And he said she was 14 at the time. And I thought, you're lying. I thought, he's lying. And because whenever he said things like that, I immediately thought, no, you're lying. You're making that up. But it turns out it was true.
But you didn't find that out until later?
Not until later. No, not until later.
Okay. So how long was it between the 4 of you all were in that hotel room together that you found out that he met her when she was 14?
a few months later, because he began talking about her, and I said, I'm not going to say her name, but I said, who's? And I said the girl's name, because he was talking about this girl. And I said, who's that? And he said, the one you want the one that you met in London? And I said, which one? And he said, the dark-haired one. And he started talking about her then and how he met her. And I thought, no, you're making it up. 14? No way. And I said, well, when did you meet her then? He said, about 8 years ago. And I thought, well, that makes her about 22 now then. If she was 14 then, that makes her about 22. And I thought she was about 19 when I met her.
So that was the first indication that you had that he had an interest in underage girls.
Yeah. And then after that conversation, that's when he started opening up more, and he started saying that he had took the virginity of so many underage fans, 14-year-olds, and I would tell him to stop talking. I'd say, stop talking, I don't want to hear this, it upsets me. Because at the time when he was telling me this, my son was 11 years old by now, because it was 2007, towards the end of 2007. And I just kept telling him to stop talking because I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to believe it, and I didn't want to hear it, because if I heard it, and the more times I heard it, it made it true, and I didn't want it to be true. So that was the first time. And then some time passed. I don't know how much time passed, but some time passed, and then he started telling me that he wanted to have sex with an 11-year-old. He didn't say anything about having done it. He said he wanted to. And again, I would tell him to stop talking. And every time he said anything like that, I'd just shut him down, tell him to stop talking.
Now, this was in person or on the phone, over the internet?
This was on Instant Messenger. This was him typing it on Instant Messenger, because while he was in Los Angeles recording an album or writing an album or whatever he was doing, I would be in the UK and we would be chatting on Instant Messenger. Now, at that time, I then left working for the bank, because I'd had a mini stroke, basically. So I couldn't continue doing the job for the bank, because the banking hours were quite crazy, because I was working looking after rich people's bank accounts. I was working in private banking, which basically we dealt with anyone that earned over £100,000 a year, and we looked after their accounts. And the hours were anything from 8 in the morning till 10 at night. I was bringing up my son on my own. I was tired. So I think the stress of my personal life, dealing with his confessions and everything, I think that, coupled with the bank, caused my body to not want to cope with what was happening. So I had a small stroke. So I left the bank job, and that's when I began. I thought, what am I going to do to pay the bills? I've got to pay the bills somehow. So I then registered self-employed as an escort. And so because I had more time on my hands, because I was working my own hours, we would be chatting every single day. We'd be talking every single day online. And I also, when I started that job, I got into taking cocaine. So, and he was into taking cocaine as well. So we would be up for so many hours straight just talking online. And I put down the strange things that he was saying. I put that down to coke talk. I put that down to him just making things up because he's off his head.
So you didn't get into coke until you were about 32, 33?
Yeah, 31, 32.
Now, a couple of questions. Now, when he was saying that he was taking advantage of these little 14-year-old girls, right? You believed him, right?
Not at first, because I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe it at first.
Now, the people around him must have witnessed this, right?
Yeah.
Co-band members, security guards, drivers.
Yeah.
How many people do you think knew about this?
I think many people knew about it. And it's like the band members came out. After he was arrested, the band members came out and made a statement that was full of lies. They said they didn't know anything about what he was up to or anything. Yet other people have come forward that knew him and knew the band, and they have written articles and things about the fact that they've witnessed it. So, of course, the band knew because they've witnessed it while he was in the presence of the band. And I mean, come on, he was in a rock band. How many other members of the band do you think had young girls on that tour bus as well? It wasn't just him, was it? It wouldn't have just been him.
And none of them have been arrested?
No,
Okay.
No, but they knew full well what's happening because in 2011, not only had I been contacting the police at that point for a few years, but I also contacted the members of the band and one of the band members' wives and warned them that he was a paedophile. And I said to the wife, keep your children away from him because Ian Watkins is a paedophile. And I actually did that publicly. I did it from my own Twitter account. And I did it publicly to her. And their response to me messaging them was to just instantly block me. And he also told me in 2011 that an album that they had been recording in Los Angeles, he said that some of the songs were about raping children. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, and nobody knows. And he was like joking about it. So I also told the band what he had said about that. And I said, how do you feel that Ian has told me that some of the songs that you've just recorded are actually, the lyrics are about raping children? How do you feel? After that, they scrapped whatever they'd done on the album. And the album was 8 months, I think it was about 8 months late being released because they had to scrap what they had done and start again.
Okay, but there has to be a gap in time here in the chronological course of the story, because you were saying about you had to be about 33 when you became a sex worker. You started using cocaine.
I was 31. Yeah. I was 31. It was 2007.
Okay, and but then you became a sex worker.
Yeah.
And you two got used. You were using coke here in the UK, and he was using coke on the other end of the computer. So then, how much more did he start telling you about his interests?
Because I kept telling him to shut up, he would stop talking about it then, and he would not bring it up. He would not bring it up then. And then it was later on, it was a few months later, that he started to, and it's now 2008, that he started mentioning, I'm not going to say who it was, I'm not going to identify how he was linked to this child, but he started talking about a 4-year-old girl. And he was linked very closely to this child, and he started talking about how he wanted to do things with her. And I would tell him to stop talking again, and I was very worried because at that point I had become friends with the girl's mother, and I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I actually sent a text message to this girl's mother warning her to keep her daughter away from Ian because he had said this about her. He somehow intercepted that text message because I then got papers served from his lawyer, which mentioned the text message that I had sent to this woman, and it was talking about that I had made disparagable remarks about his client or something like that, telling me to basically shut up. And that I would do irreparable damage to his client's reputation. And it was mentioned in this text message that I had sent, and I thought, how does he know about that text message? So somehow the text message had either come through on her phone while in his presence, and he had picked it up and read it, or she had showed him the text message. Somehow he knew about that text message. So I tried warning her. He got the message. He went to his lawyer, forced me to sign a gagging order, but I didn't sign it at first. I wrote all over it, I'll sign this when it isn't full of bullshit.
So, but the woman you had warned, have you ever spoken with her since? Have you ever spoken with her?
No, because as soon as I sent her that text message, as soon as that happened, she then cut contact with me.
Okay.
He had convinced everyone that I was making it all up, I was a liar and everything. And then the next thing that I did, I went to the police. I went to the police about it because he had had a conversation with my sister on the phone, it turned out. He had spoke to my sister on the phone, and I overheard the conversation on the phone because he rang my phone and asked to speak to my sister, and I thought, what's he want to speak to her about? So he's speaking to my sister on the phone, and this is at the end of 2008, and I hear her side of the conversation, and she's saying, don't worry, I'll make sure the file's deleted. And I thought, well, good luck with that. I come home and I find that my laptop has gone missing. And I contact my sisters and I say, oh my God, somebody's broke in. My laptop's gone. And they tell me, calm down. We've took your laptop. And that's when I thought, oh my God, everything must be true. Because if he's gone to the lengths of getting my sister involved to take my laptop and destroy evidence, then he must have something to hide. It must all be true. He wanted her to delete the chat conversations. And she said that she'd read them, and she decided to destroy it because she didn't want to cause any trouble. So,
wait, why would your sister go along with him and not with you?
I don't know. We didn't find out the lengths of what she went to until after everything was disclosed to me by the Crown Prosecution Service, and there are pages and pages of emails and things between my sister and Dean Watkins and his lawyers. So there's pages and pages of all this.
Were they paying her?
I didn't know that this had gone on.
Were they paying?
We think that there might have been money involved. We think there possibly was money involved.
Did you confide in your sister that, hey, this guy's potentially...
I did, and I screamed down the phone at her at the time of my laptop going missing and her admitting to stealing it. I screamed down the phone at her, you've no idea what you're messing with here, what I'm trying to report. So the next call I made was to the police. And I told them everything because in my head I thought, right, he's tried his best to discourage me from doing anything. He's tried his best to convince me that things are not as I think they are. And now he's got my sister involved to hide and destroy evidence against him. So it must be true, because you won't go to those lengths, and you won't go to the lengths of getting a lawyer involved either. So that's what pushed me to report him in the end.
What's your relationship now with your sister?
I hardly see her. As soon as I found out the lengths of what she'd gone to, I confronted her about it. She denied it, and I said, I've got it all, pages and pages in black and white here. And she denied it and denied it and denied it. I don't really speak to her now.
Well, what about, okay, I guess, well, let's touch on it right now, because when you were on trial, you got arrested.
Yeah.
Now, was she helping you cooperate with you in your defense for your case?
No. She was a witness to something else as well, something else that had happened to me. And the police tried to contact her to be a witness about that, and she didn't even answer. She wouldn't answer the door. She wouldn't answer any of the phone calls or anything. She wouldn't help with anything.
Was she sleeping with...
I think she was possibly terrified of the fact that why the police were contacting her. I think she was terrified that the police might be contacting her to arrest her for, I don't know, perverting the course of justice or something.
Now, was she sexually involved with Watkins as well?
Oh, God, no. Okay. No.
Okay. That's bizarre. Okay, now, so now you started contacting the police about this too?
Yeah, and then I broke contact. As I contacted the police, I broke contact with him for about 2 years. So I contacted the police and child services, social services and the child protection part of social services. I spoke to them at length, told them everything that I knew, and a police officer called me back, but it took them 3 months just to take my statement, my witness statement. So in that 3 months, I discovered that in that 3 months, they hadn't even been in contact with him directly. They had done everything through his lawyer, and they'd basically given him 3 months to hide everything. But they never even visited his home. They didn't go to his home to take his computer or anything. They didn't even have any contact with him. But in that 3 months, he told me afterwards that he had hidden everything at his friend's house. So even if the police had knocked on his door, there'd be nothing there for them to take, because he'd taken everything, all his computers and everything, to his friend's house to hide them.
Did he name the friend?
There. Did I meet the friend?
No, did he name the friend?
No, he didn't name the friend, no.
Do you know who the friend is?
I had my suspicions. It could have been a couple of people.
Okay.
In fact, one of the people that I suspected it being was one of the girls that I actually met in that hotel room. That's one of the people that I suspected.
Now during this time, you got the threatening letter from his lawyer. Your sister's obviously betraying you.
Oh, God, yeah.
You start going to the cops. Now, were you in any more contact with Watkins?
Oh, God, no. Not for 2 years. And the only reason I contacted him again in 2010 was because I was in a relationship with someone else, and I was going to Los Angeles to go and live with this guy. And I thought, oh, I'm going to mend some bridges in the UK. And I started doubting everything because the police didn't do anything. And the last I heard from the police was that they were closing the investigation because there wasn't enough evidence. And the last thing I said to the detective sergeant was, look, I'm not a liar, Andy. I'm not a psycho. And if anything else happens to another child, it's on your head, not mine. That's my last contact with the police. So I walked away from everything. And I doubted myself in 2010, thinking, well, maybe I did get it wrong. Maybe it was all the coke talking because the police didn't do anything, and they'd do something if there was something. And so I doubted myself. So I actually contacted him and said, look, I'm sorry for what happened. I must have got it wrong. And I told him that I was going to Los Angeles to go and have a life with someone else. And I just wanted to mend some bridges. He kept asking me to meet him. And I said, no, I've just told you I'm going to be with someone else. And so I went away. That relationship didn't work out. I came back to the UK, and then I met up with Watkins. And everything was normal. That first visit, everything was normal. There was no mention of any children, no mention of anything weird. Everything was normal that first meeting, so I agreed to meet him again 2 weeks later. And it was on that second occasion, in August 2010, that the band had just played a festival here called Reading and Leeds Festival. I don't know if you've heard of it, Reading and Leeds Festival.
No, I haven't heard of it, no.
No. Well, the band had just played there. So they were in Leeds at the time because they just played at this festival. And so I had a hotel room in Leeds, and he came to see me at the hotel. And that is when everything that I had reported, everything that I had feared, that's when it all became true. He took out of his...
well, you know what? This might be a good time to play a commercial break. Take a little commercial break. We're here with Joanne Mjadzelics. Mjadzelics. Okay. And we're discussing Ian Watkins, who's in prison right now for child rape. How much time did he get in prison? 40 years, something like that?
29 years in prison with a further 6 years on license, which means that he's basically on like a sex register.
Only 6 years sex register, huh?
And he's I don't know what license means, but I think it's sex register, but with further things attached to it. I don't know what that means.
Okay. All right. So we'll be right back after these messages. This is your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. And if you're enjoying the show right now, there's more. You can get more. You can go to the Ed Opperman YouTube channel, and you could subscribe there. And we have archives of all of our past shows for over the past 3 years, about 200, 300 shows. You can also go to the Opperman Report Spreaker channel, and you could follow us there. Again, a ton of shows, about 300 shows on there. And whenever we do an impromptu show, an emergency-type broadcast that we do during the week occasionally, you'll get an email notifying you of breaking news and spontaneous broadcasts that we may do during the week. You can also go to OppermanReport.com and become a member. If you become a member, you help support the free archives on Spreaker and YouTube, and you help support the free shows on Friday evening and on Saturday evening. Each of these shows, Friday evening and Saturday evening, are carried for free on 7 internet stations, okay? So you help support that, but also, too, at OppermanReport.com in the members section, we have exclusive content. Shows that are recorded during the week that are only available to members. So please check out OppermanReport.com and help support the show.
The son of a Polish immigrant who grew up in a Brooklyn tenement, Bernie Sanders. He went to public schools, then college, where the work of his life began, fighting injustice and inequality, speaking truth to power. Bernie moved to Vermont, won election and praise as one of America's best mayors. In Congress, Bernie stood up for working families and for principle, opposing the Iraq War, supporting veterans. Now he's taking on Wall Street and a corrupt political system that holds up a rigged economy. Bernie's campaign is funded by over 1 million small contributions from people like you. He's fighting for living wages, equal pay, and tuition-free public colleges. Bernie Sanders.
People are sick and tired of establishment politics, and they want real change.
Bernie Sanders, husband, father, grandfather, an honest leader, building a movement with you to give us a future to believe in.
I'm Bernie Sanders, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bernie 2016.
Check out strawmanmusic.com. Sean Duff is our webmaster here at the Opperman Report, and he's a very talented musician. He's part of a band called Strawman. They're based up there in Canada. Don't hold that against them. These are like-minded folks. If you like the shows you hear on the Opperman Report, you'll like the music that they have over at strawmanmusic.com.
Enough is enough. Wall Street's greed and illegal behavior drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the 1930s. And then, after getting a huge taxpayer bailout because they were too big to fail, it turns out that 3 out of the 4 largest banks are bigger today than they were before we bailed them out. That's crazy. I'm Bernie Sanders. My plan: break up the big banks who are strangling our economy and make them pay their fair share of taxes. Then we can invest in the middle class, expand Social Security, and provide universal college education. I'll rein in Wall Street behavior so they can't crash our economy again. Will they like me? No. Will they begin to play by the rules if I'm president? You better believe it. I'm Bernie Sanders, Democratic candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bernie 2016.
You know, you can get a copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator, if you go to my website, emailrevealer.com. Now, this is a limited edition book, okay? And you can get a signed copy of this book, and it'll be personally autographed to you or whoever you want to give the book to as a gift. Once you have my signature on that book, you can copy the signature and put it on checks and pass them all over the world. Emailrevealer.com. Get a copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator.
He's fought injustice and inequality his whole life. Bernie Sanders. As a college student, he was arrested for challenging segregated housing. Bernie marched with Dr. King and thousands of others for civil rights. In Congress, Bernie stood up for working families on health care and jobs. Now he's taking on Wall Street banks and a corrupt political system that keeps in place a rigged economy. Bernie Sanders, a reformer who believes in ending racial profiling and mass incarceration so the justice system works for everyone. Bernie Sanders.
There is no president who will fight harder to end institutional racism and reform our broken criminal justice system.
Bernie Sanders, an honest leader building a movement with you to give us a future to believe in.
I'm Bernie Sanders, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bernie 2016.
Welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and we're here with Joanne Mjadzelics, the ex-lover of Ian Watkins, this convicted child rapist. Now, Joanne, we left off, he had just performed at this big concert. This is after you turned him in. Now, but he forgave you for that and just said, okay, let's go back to old time's sake?
Yeah, it was really weird. It was as if when I got back in contact with him, it was May of that year, 2010. And as soon as I got back in contact with him online, he was wanting to meet me straight away. It was as if no time had passed. It was as if nothing had happened. I had not gone to the police. It was like that. He was straight away wanting to meet me, wanting to pick up where we left off, really. But I refused, and it wasn't for a few months later that I actually did meet up with him.
Now, this kind of guy who's a predator, right? He's a predator on people, and they have a way of spotting people that have been abused in the past. And was that your case, that you had a childhood possibly of some type of abuse of your own?
No, I wasn't sexually abused as a child. I had a very abusive childhood, as in like smacked around. Me and my sisters were smacked around a lot from age 3 by my stepdad. I don't recall any sexual abuse as a child. But so there was that, but I didn't give off like any, like he didn't have some sort of radar on him
okay.
that would pick up that. I don't know.
Okay, so then you get back with him. You meet back up with him after this concert, and you say then there was definitely indications that.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had this backpack with him, and he started taking something out of the backpack, and he said, "I've got something to show you." And I was turned away. I wasn't looking, and he took a laptop out of his bag, and he opened the laptop, and then I heard him press a few buttons, and the first thing I heard was a child screaming and crying, and that made me turn around, and I quickly saw there was a video on the screen of a young girl being raped, and I turned back round and I looked at him, and I could feel the tears, like they were prickling at my eyes, and I could feel the tears come in, and I was looking at him. I wasn't looking at the screen, and he just had this evil look in his eyes, like an evil like smile in his eyes, and the corner of his mouth, he wasn't smiling like a huge grin, but he had like a smirk. One corner of his mouth was turned up. He had a smirk, like an evil smirk, and I just said to him, "What time does the tour bus leave?" And he said 4 o'clock. And I said, "Tough, because you're going now. Get out of my hotel room." And I rang the receptionist of the hotel, and I got her to book him a taxi back to where the band was, because I wanted him out of my room. And I kicked him out of my room then. And I started thinking, oh my God, I wasn't wrong. And then I started thinking, what am I going to do? Because if I tell the police, he's just going to hide that computer. Like he did his last computer, he's just going to hide everything again. And when I was interviewed as a witness, after my first report on him, when I was interviewed as a witness then, 3 months after I reported him, the detective that was interviewing me on video brought up that I had written a letter to his mother explaining why I had to report him to the police and telling her everything. And I said, "Look, what would you rather me do? Protect your son or protect?" And I named the girl. And they gave that letter to their lawyer, and the lawyer told the police to go after me for harassment because I'd written to his mother. So the police threatened me with harassment charges. So I thought, in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, he's just going to hide everything. He's just going to hide that laptop like he did the last ones. And the police are going to come after me for harassment. They're going to make up harassment charges against me. So I thought, I've got to do something more. I've got to get more on him. But I decided to break contact again. So I didn't have any contact with him for a further 9 months. So now it is May 2011. We fast forward to May 2011. Because I didn't have any contact with him. I didn't want any contact with him. And he, out of the blue, messages me on Skype, just asking me how you doing, and telling me that he's in Los Angeles and asking me what I'm up to. And I told him that I was just about to move home. I told him what I was doing, and I thought, this is normal. Normal conversations with Ian Watkins would quickly turn to something horrific. It would be as if there's a Jekyll and Hyde character typing on the keyboard. He would quickly switch from "hello, how you doing" to something horrible. And that is how that conversation went.
Now, were you still using coke at that time?
No. Oh, God, no. I stopped in 2008.
Okay.
And that's what made me sober up and start thinking about things, about what had been said when we were having sex. Because he liked to film everything. And you know what I mean by that.
So all the times you guys were having sex, he always filmed it?
Yeah, every time.
From the very first time?
From the very first time, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you weren't hesitant about that? Yeah.
That wasn't anything unusual to me because I'd done that before.
Okay.
You have to remember I wasn't some impressionable fan. I wasn't naive. I'd lived a bit, So, like I keep saying, I was 31 when we met. So
right.
In my 31 years, I had lived a bit,
So have I, okay?
Filming sex wasn't anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
I'd done it before.
So now, but now in 2011, you're saying now you get back with him, and now you're on Skype with him.
Yeah. It's just a text chat on Skype. It's not like a phone call or a video chat. It's texting.
Okay.
On Skype, because he didn't have any of my new contact details because I broke contact with him. So the only thing that he had was my Skype. So he contacted me by Skype. And then he asked me for my phone number. So I gave him my phone number, my new phone number. And he's typing away on Skype, asking me how I am, what I'm up to and everything. And then the next thing he says just comes out with, I've been raping a 5-year-old in Los Angeles. And I said, what? Whose child? And he said that he described the woman as a junkie groupie who he paid with heroin or cash. And I didn't believe this. I thought he's making bizarre claims. I didn't believe it. I thought, no one's going to do that. No one's going to do that. And he said, do you want a preview? I said, no, I don't want a preview. And he tried to send me images to my Skype account that I rejected. I didn't even open because I didn't want them. So because he had my phone number, he then sent me text messages, picture messages from his American mobile number to my phone number. So the text messages come through, and there are only 3 images that come through. Apparently he sent 4 images, but the 4th image didn't get to me. It got lost in transmission somewhere. And it was of the same girl. It was of the same girl being sexually abused. There was no head on the images. You couldn't see the child's face because it was just the torso, but you could tell it was the same girl. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? As soon as I was able to get internet connection again at my new home, because I was moving home that weekend, as soon as I was able to get internet connected at my new home, I looked on the South Wales Police website for details of how to contact the Chief Constable. That's the bloke in charge of the police force over here in the UK, the Chief Constable. So I contact South Wales Police Chief Constable by email because I think I'm not going to try and put a phone call through to him. I'm going to put it in black and white. So there's an email address under the Chief Constable's details of how to contact the Chief Constable. Well, it turns out that email address wasn't his personal email address, but it was a group email address for the Association of Chief Police Officers. So basically, anyone who had access to the Association of Chief Police Officers email account opened that email. And I know that at least 7 people opened this email because because the police forces are under investigation now. So the people that are investigating the police forces gave me that documentation and gave me the print off showing how many people accessed that email. So the email itself, in May 2011, after he had sent these images to me, basically consisted of me pleading with the Chief Constable to please help me. I've been trying to get this guy for years. The first investigation was nothing happened with it. Could he put me back in touch with the Child Protection Unit to speak to them about this new information, this new evidence? I need to get the images to them. And I'm pleading with them and I'm telling them, look, I've had to play along with him and agree to the disgusting things in order to trap him, in order to get him to trust me and to trap him. Can you please help me? And I mean, this email's been published online. The press have this email, but I can't remember it word for word, but that's the gist of it. So it's been published by the press online anyway. So that's my email to them. I then get a phone call from the original detective sergeant that I dealt with in 2008, 2009. So this is now 2 years after they closed the investigation. They closed the investigation in March, April 2009. It was a non-starter, that investigation. So now 2 years later, May 2011, I'm speaking to the same detective sergeant that I had issued that warning to. If anything else happens to another child, it's on your head, not mine. And I'm speaking to this same guy again. And I'm telling him, look, I told you something would happen. He's now escalated. This is what he's doing now. He's now escalated. And he could not be bothered. I'm saying to him, how do I get these images to you? Because I know I can't email you the images because that's breaking the law. How do I get the images to you? Do you want me to travel down to Cardiff to see you? Are you going to come up to Doncaster to see me? Or do I go to my local police station in Doncaster and see them? And he gave me nothing. He gave me nothing. No way of getting the images to him. No way of him seeing the images. No way of continuing the investigation. And I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So in the end, on the second phone call with him, I end up saying to him, look, do you know what, Andy? I'm just going to go to Los Angeles because he's asking me to go to Los Angeles to listen to some music that they've recorded. I'm going to go to Los Angeles and I'm going to find out the name of this girl. I'm going to get LAPD onto him, and LAPD won't mess about. They'll put a gun to his head. They'll get it out of him. And so that was the last thing I said. I got on a plane, went to Los Angeles. I tried everything. I looked everywhere in that apartment for anything that could have given me a clue. There was nothing. He even stole, when I got to his apartment, as soon as I put my laptop and my BlackBerry phone on his coffee table and I went into the bedroom to get some sleep and he went off to work, I get up, I go into the living room to get my phone, because he'd already given me my laptop. He brought my laptop into me and said, oh, you stay in bed, you just chill. I go to get my BlackBerry, and my BlackBerry is gone from the coffee table. And so I go online and I message him on Instant Messenger, did you take my BlackBerry? And he said, no, I've got an iPhone. And I said, no, but did you take my BlackBerry? And he denied it. But I know that BlackBerry was there because I was supposed to meet some friends that afternoon, and my friends had been texting me, and I could hear my phone beeping from the bedroom before he left. So I know my phone was there because I could hear the message beeps.
And the BlackBerry had those child pornography images on there.
That's why he stole it. I get back to the UK and I have to call the insurance company and get a new phone. So I get a new phone sent. As soon as I get that new phone, I contact him. And one of the strange things that he says to me was, he said, you've been in contact with the police again, haven't you? And I thought, how the hell does he know that? The only way he would know that is if he has stolen my BlackBerry and seen the call list. But then I thought, no, because I made sure that I deleted the call history so he would, in case he did go through my phone. Because he had a habit of picking up my phone and going through the messages and stuff. Because although he had all this adoration around him and he was this rock star and, you know, he could pick anyone that he wanted, he still had insecurities and he still had to check up on people. Do you know what I mean? He still had that insecurity and jealousy. So he would go through my text messages and go through things. So I remember deleting any call history that would show that I had been in contact with the police. And I also deleted the email between myself and the Chief Constable's secretary. I'm pretty sure I deleted those emails. Not 100%, but I'm pretty sure I did. But yeah, so the only other explanation, other than me not deleting everything and him skipping through my phone, having stolen it, was someone in the police had tipped him off. That was the only other explanations.
Well, you didn't have a password? Your phone wasn't locked?
Do you know what? There was a password on it, but I remember him saying to me as well in that same conversation, well, you do know that I can pretty much unlock anything. I can unlock iPhones and BlackBerries and stuff. And I said, why would you say that unless you'd nicked it? Why would you say that? And he said, I didn't nick it. I'm just stating a fact. I can unlock things like iPhones and BlackBerries. So, yeah, he unlocked it.
And this was in Los Angeles?
That was in Los Angeles, yeah.
Around 2011?
Yeah, May 2011.
Okay, and he was like a wealthy guy. He had means?
No.
No, he wasn't.
People think he did, but he didn't. In 2008, when I decided to stop seeing him and I wanted to report him, he had owed me in 2008. At some point in 2008, he had owed me £5,000.
Okay.
And then I ended up taking him to small claims court, which is it's basically the court that you go to if someone owes you a little bit of money, and it's not in the hundreds of thousands or anything.
Sure.
So I took him to small claims court, and we agreed on a final amount that he owed me £3,250. And so when he sent me those papers from his lawyer to sign the gagging order, he said to me, look, if you sign these, then I'll give you your money back that I owe you. And at the time, I was really ill and I wasn't working because I was really ill. My health had started to deteriorate at that point. And I thought, oh, my God, I've got this massive electricity bill to pay. So I contact my own solicitor. I contact a solicitor on the phone and I say, look, I've got this thing that is calling a gagging order. If I sign it, can I still go to the police? Because this guy owes me money and he'll only give me it back if I sign it. If I sign it, can I still go to the police? And the solicitor said to me, yes, of course you can, because any criminal investigation overrides any civil agreement. And that's all that is. It's a piece of paper. It's a civil agreement. If he's doing this, it's a criminal investigation and that will override it. So don't worry about it. So I signed that document. He only agreed to pay me back £2,000 of the £3,250 that he owed. And he said he would pay the rest back in instalments. So I said, OK, then, yeah, because he was so broke, he couldn't pay. He couldn't pay the full amount back because he was broke. So people say I've been accused of being a gold digger and all sorts when that wasn't the case. It was totally the opposite. It was totally not the case. I don't know where all his money went, but everything that he earned from, I think, I'm not sure, I think one or two of their albums, I wasn't a fan of his because, do you know, I went to that one concert, that one gig where we met, and that's the only one he ever went to, because I remember thinking, I'm glad I didn't pay for this, because it was just not my thing in the end. So, two of their albums might have gone to number one in the charts. So he did at one point have some money, but not in 2008. He didn't. It was starting to fall away, I think, in 2008.
Okay. In California around 2008, 2010, you could unlock a BlackBerry for about $300 or $400. You could hire someone to do that. Or maybe he knew someone who was a private investigator, or did he have those kind of contacts around him?
I don't know. I know he was very techie himself. He could do a lot of things himself. He was quite clever that way. So I don't know. Maybe he did have a contact there in 2011. I don't know.
Well, the software to do it would cost about $2,000.
Really?
Yeah.
He wouldn't buy that himself. Okay. He's not going to pay for that.
Okay. But now you had this BlackBerry with the evidence on it, and the image came from his phone number, his legal phone number?
Yeah.
How come you didn't just take that down and walk down to your local police department and just say, here, look?
Because that's what I tried to do. And I was saying to the police force, his local police force, which was in South Wales, Cardiff, in the UK, I was saying to them, look, do you want me to go to my local police force and with all this evidence and do it that way? But I thought maybe it's best to keep it within one police force, because I thought the more police forces I'm getting involved, the more risk there is of this getting into the press. And I didn't want it leaking to the press. I wanted to have this guy arrested because I knew that if anyone leaked anything to the press, that would ruin anything. Any investigation, it would fall apart because it's been leaked to the press. So I stupidly and naively thought it was best to keep it with his local police force. And that was wrong, because they are now under investigation. And my local police force, actually, because in the end I did go to my local police force because I was sick of his police force burying everything. I went to my police station on a few occasions with my laptop, with everything that I had. And I kept saying to them, please take these off me, because one image, the final image that did not come to my phone, he actually sent it by Skype afterwards. In the end, he sent it by Skype. And he had forgotten that he had sent that image because he thought stealing my BlackBerry was enough to cover himself. So I kept taking my laptop with this one Skype conversation, one image on it, to my local police station. And at first I saw one police officer on her own. And I said, take it, it's there, take it. She refused to take it from me. She told me that someone would take it from her within 6 weeks. 6 weeks passed, 8 weeks passed, nothing. And in the meantime, I'm contacting her sergeant and asking when they're going to take the laptop from me. They need to take it from me. After that, I saw this same female officer again and her colleague. Sat in a room with them for about 2 hours, sat there with my laptop and everything. I opened up the Skype conversation, showed them the Skype conversation. And again, it was as if everything that I was showing them, they were throwing back at me. And she said to me, one of them said to me, he must have really fucked you over for you to do this to him. And I stood up from the desk and I said, fucked me over?
No, wait. You got to watch the language. We have to keep the language. Can't use any obscenity.
It was pre-recorded. I thought it was pre-recorded.
Yeah, what do you think? I have the. I'm going to go back and edit all this. It's pre-recorded, but we broadcast as if live. So,
okay.
But just once, a couple of times it slips out. We do your accent, nobody can understand it anyway.
Should I start that bit again?
No, we're fine. So now,
So I said, me over.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a bullet in his head if you don't do something about him, because that will be the only way to stop him. A bullet in the head is the only way to stop him if you lot carry on doing nothing. And they looked at each other and then they said, we'll just be a minute. And they went out of the room. They took all the paper evidence that I had. This included the court papers where I had taken him to court for the money that he owed me, to prove that he did owe me money and that I signed that agreement because he owed me the money. They photocopied everything and then they said, all right then, and they let me go. And then the next thing, an officer comes to my door to actually take my laptop finally. And I said to her, look, I'm going to Australia now. I'm going to Australia to see my sister for 3 months with my son. So you're not taking my laptop because I need my laptop. You could have taken it months ago. You're not taking it now. And I signed a police notebook to that effect to say that on the 8th of September, when I return from Australia, they can take my laptop then. And then I have another conversation with the sergeant of the two female officers. And he says to me, I'll tell you what, Joanne, you come into the police station, you see me with your laptop. I'll look at this image that everyone's afraid to look at. I'll look at it. And if I deem it to be an inappropriate image, then we will send your laptop to Cardiff to be... what's the word? I can't remember the word. Again, because of the condition that I have with my brain, I forget words a lot. Sorry, you're going to have to help me out.
Well, they would take an image of your hard drive and then create a report.
He didn't say that, but he said it. But that's what he would do, I presume. So he said that that's what would happen. And he said, if I don't deem it to be inappropriate, you can take your laptop, go to Australia, get on with your life. I said, fair enough, deal. And so I took my laptop to the police station again. And I saw this sergeant and I saw a different female officer. I showed them the image that he had sent to me. And they look at it, they take a closer look at it, they put glasses on to take a closer look at it, bend forward to have a look. And both of them say, no, that's not a 5-year-old. No, she's over 16 years old. No, definitely not a 5. I said, look, I don't know what a little girl looks like naked. I don't have a daughter. I don't know what a little girl looks like naked, but I'm sure that's a little girl. It must be. Because I said, because I've been a teenager myself. I know what a teenage body looks like. It's not like that. And the female officer was swearing down that this was not a child. She said, I've got young nieces, and no, that's definitely not a child. She's over 16, this girl in the picture. And they tell me to get on with my life. And so I do, and I'm confused, and I'm feeling stupid, and I'm feeling confused, and I'm thinking, no, that is a child. What am I going to do? I've tried everything now. I've tried everything. And I get on with my life. I go to Australia. I come back from Australia, and everything has changed. When I get back from Australia a few months later, everything has changed, because in that same month, September, I get back September the 8th. And it transpires that on September the 21st, I think it was September the 21st, Ian Watkins was arrested. Okay. And he's not arrested for child offences. Oh, no. He's only arrested because somebody calls the police and tips them off that he has drugs in his home. So he's not arrested on he's not raided for any of the child abuse offences. He's not arrested or visited for that. But as soon as someone mentions that he's got drugs in his home and possibly importing them from the USA, they knock on his door and raid his home. And that is when they find all the evidence that he has stored of videos and photographs, etc., etc. And that's when they find it all. So every single report that was ever made over a period of years, and it wasn't just me. It turns out 2 other people over the years had made reports against him, but they had done it anonymously. They had called crime. We have Crime Stoppers. I don't know if you have that there.
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah, and you can call it anonymously and report a crime, and that's what these 2 other people had done. Yet every single report that I had made had obviously left my name and details. But every single report was ignored, brushed under the carpet, filed away in a drawer somewhere.
Now, how did you come to be arrested?
Because it wasn't until he had been arrested, and then he was rearrested a month later. And when he was rearrested because of the stuff that they'd found at his home at the end of October 2012, that's when they contacted me again. And it's so strange because 3 weeks after at the beginning of October, I made a further report about Ian Watkins and one of the mothers that are in prison. Months and months before that, March 2012, I had reported the first mother and Watkins. I'd reported that he was going to rape her baby boy.
How did you know?
Because she told me. Because at the end of 2011, I began thinking, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this on my own anymore. I've got to get more people to report this guy. So I tracked down the first girl's father. I tracked him down, and I said to him, were you aware of a report that I made to the police about Ian possibly molesting? And I named the daughter. And he said, no. I said, are you kidding me? Because when I spoke to Child Services, they promised me that they would tell the father, because in all cases they have to inform both parents. No one told the father of this 4-year-old girl that I had made an accusation about Ian Watkins molesting his daughter. No one had. So he was very angry about that. So I had him, and he went and made a separate report about Ian and told the police how upset he was and outraged he was that no one had told him anything. So I had him. And then I tracked down a girl who had been posting everywhere online that Ian Watkins was the father of her baby boy. So I contacted this girl and I said, is Ian Watkins the father of your son? And she said, what's the paternity of my child got to do with you? And I said, okay, forget that. Next question. Has Ian Watkins had contact with your child? And she said, yes, he has. I said, right, you and me need to talk. And I gave her my phone number. And she called me and we had a chat, and I said, has Ian ever done or said anything inappropriate to you? And she said, and she told me everything. She said that he had told her that he wanted to put GHB, which is the liquid form of the rape drug Rohypnol. It's called GHB. And he wanted to put GHB in the child's cup and dip his dummy in it and rape the baby. And I said, oh my God, you've got to tell the police, you've got to tell the police. And she said, I'm scared. So I said, no, I'm going to make an appointment to give a statement to the police and I'm going to tell them that you're coming with me. So you meet me and we'll go together. Because this girl, it turned out this girl lived in a village not far from where I live. She lived about 10, 15 minutes away from me. So we were going to go to the police station in my hometown together. She didn't turn up. I go to the appointment, and this is the time when I go into the police station with my laptop and there's a female officer there. That's that time. She was supposed to come with me, but she didn't show up. And a couple of days later, she contacted me again, and she claimed that her son had been in hospital, and that's why she didn't show up. She came to my home then instead with her child, and she told me more and more. She actually showed me on her phone, she had images of Ian with her baby boy. They were lying naked on a bed together. So she was kind of like showing me to convince me that, yes, he had met her son. And my stomach turned. When I saw that image, my stomach turned. And so I again contact the same sergeant of the first female officer, and I say, look, I'm not going to name the woman because we're not allowed to name the woman. All right. But I said, the girl is here with me now, and she's with her son, and she's ready to make a statement now. That statement never happened because after that conversation, she decided to go and meet Ian Watkins and tell him everything. She told him that I had tracked down the father of the original girl. She told him everything that I had told the police. Everything. He knew everything. And that made it very difficult for the father of that first girl, because the father of the first girl was trying to get more contact with his daughter. But then as soon as the Watkins family found out that he had also reported Ian to the police, as soon as they found that out, they stopped him contacting his daughter out of spite and to protect Ian Watkins.
Now you said that Ian Watkins found out that you had been to the police and you were talking. How do you know that he found out? He called you up and said, hey, I know everything?
In 2011, he said on the phone call when I got back to the UK, he said, oh, you've been in contact with the police again, haven't you? And I was like took back by that because I thought, oh my God, how am I going to respond to that? And I said, no, how do you know? And he said, you have, haven't you? And I just quickly ended the phone call because I didn't know what to do. I was like scared because I thought, oh my God, how's he know? And my mind was working overtime thinking the only way he would know is if he had stolen my phone and I hadn't deleted the history on there and he'd seen the history on there, or someone from the police had tipped him off. It turns out I now know, because another witness has come forward, I now know because the brother-in-law of a female chief inspector has come forward and told the internal investigation, told them that he remembers his sister-in-law talking at a family barbecue and telling the whole family about the time that she met Ian Watkins in a local pub, to talk about the accusations that I had made against him. Now, that's a chief inspector for the police meeting a suspect in a pub. They keep it all off the books. They don't have him to come down to the station. They meet him in a pub to talk about my accusations. And she was making all kinds of disparaging remarks about me at this family barbecue. That's what this family member remembers. And that's what he's told the internal investigation.
Now, how is it that this Ian Watkins has everybody doing his bidding for him and is able to convince this?
I don't know. You know, he was very manipulative and very charming. He oozed charm and he was very manipulative. He would convince you that I don't know. He would convince you of anything.
Okay, listen. He can convince you and these other girls and this other stuff. But how is he convincing a whole entire police department?
I don't know. But what I have always suspected, and every time I brought this up to police, I was shut down immediately. Every time I brought up the words paedophile ring, I was shut down immediately. I know that he was involved with some high-ranking people. I know because, well, you've read all about it. There's these paedophile rings that were in Parliament years ago, and it's all coming out into the open now in the UK. I know that he was involved in some pretty tight circles, and by tight circles, I mean that he was involved in some pretty disgusting stuff with some pretty high-up people. I know that.
Well, how do you know?
I don't know how I know it. I know it.
Oh, okay. Now, there's someone was saying that he was dating this woman, Fern Cotton.
Yeah.
Now, she was involved with Top of the Pops?
Yeah.
And then you got Jimmy Savile, Top of the Pops.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
So do you have any suspicions there in that area?
Not involving Fern, no. But I know what you're getting at, the BBC. The BBC had a little paedophile ring going on. Yeah, I know what you're getting at there, and that is interesting you say that, because one of my suspicions is that he was involved with people at the BBC as well. And that might sound far-fetched. It might sound like, oh, my God, you're just making it up, you nut job. I'm not making it up. These are actual facts that are coming out now. These things happen.
Well, yeah, obviously something's going on here, okay? Now this Fern Cotton, again, do you think that she was just another one of his victims? Or if he had if his sole interest in sex is sex with little kids, how could she not know?
What he used to say to me he used to say some pretty horrible things about Fern to me. He told me that he was only seeing Fern because of the exposure that she could give them on the radio. Okay. And even after that, because I think they split up in around 2006 or something. He told me that he only kept in contact with her because she kept having the band on her show. Even in 2011 and 2012, she was having lost profits on her radio show and things. And I think, well, that's very strange. That's very strange. You wouldn't, would you? If you'd split up with someone, you wouldn't endorse them that way, you know?
Now, what about Peaches Geldorf? How does she fit into all this?
She doesn't really, other than the fact that when it all came out, when he was arrested, when he pleaded guilty, when the two women pleaded guilty, Peaches Geldorf was absolutely disgusted. She could not believe what he had pled guilty to. So she was having a bit of a Twitter rant. She was ranting about how disgusted she was and everything. And then one of her followers tweeted her a link to the court website, and by mistake the court had listed the names of the women. They weren't allowed to do that because it would identify the children, listing the names of the mothers. So the court had by mistake listed the names of the women. So one of her followers tweeted her the link and said, it's got the names of the women here. So she then tweeted the link to the court and the girls' names. So there was this big, massive reaction from the press, which completely was out of order. And they were saying that she's in trouble now because she's named the women and she's not allowed to do that. But it was the court that named the women in the first place. And that's all that was. She wasn't linked to him in any way other than her being disgusted by what he did. That was it.
Okay. How did you get arrested?
Okay. So he pleads guilty. And I had already been in contact with someone that worked as kind of like an investigator, and he was also on the telly. So I had been in contact with him prior to him pleading guilty. And I said, look, I don't want this. I need this investigating properly because I think the police are going to get away with everything, because they had been burying everything and protecting him for reasons that are about to come out, because the 3-year investigation into the police is not finished yet. So that investigation into the police is still going on. So I said to this guy, look, I need this exposing. I need everything exposing. So we waited until he pleaded guilty. And then I was in the press. I spoke to the press, and I was on the TV with this guy that I'd contacted, and we were exposing it all. So because I exposed it all and embarrassed the police, that is why I was arrested, because 2 weeks after a BBC, there was a BBC programme about everything, about the police failures. 2 weeks after that, I was arrested. And when the police came to my home and said, we're arresting you for possession of indecent images from 2011. And I said, what are you talking about? The ones that I went to the police with 5 times. What are you talking about? And all through the interview, they were throwing things at me and throwing supposed online chat conversations that I'd had with Ian Watkins. And I kept saying, I don't recognise that. That's not my account. What are you talking about? And so they were throwing the images at me as well. And I said, yeah, I did receive the images because... And I went to the chief constable at first, then I went 4 more times to the police about these images.
Well, wait a second. Where did they get the images from? If they were on your...
Phone records.
Wait, phone records?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Now, these images were sent to your BlackBerry.
Yeah.
And they were sent via Skype to your laptop.
Yeah, they didn't have the one from Skype, but they had the ones that he had stolen, the 3 text messages that he sent me.
Right. They
had those because they got them from the phone records. So even though he'd nicked the BlackBerry, it didn't do anything, Ian, because, they got the phone records.
So they were able to recover images from a phone record?
Yeah.
Okay, and now, all right. So then they somehow because they were continuing to prosecute him, and
he was already in jail by this time. They waited until he pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty, and because he pleaded guilty, none of all this cover-up came out at the trial. There was no trial,
right?
So none of it could come out because he'd pleaded guilty. So I thought, no, I'm not having this. The truth needs to come out. What I'd said to the police was, just after he was arrested originally, at the beginning of 2013, January 2013, I had a conversation with one of the detectives that had arrested him. And I said, look, I'm going to make a complaint against the police because obviously this should have been dealt with 4 years ago. And she said to me, oh, no, don't make a complaint against the police because everything will all come out at trial. Because you're going to be a witness, everything will all come out at trial. Or everything will all come out when you're on the stand. So I lost that chance. I didn't get that chance of telling the truth and telling the world how the police had covered it up for 4 years. So that's why I exposed it to the press. And I did it. I didn't take any money for it. I kept saying I don't want any money for these interviews. I just want the truth out there. So because I did that, because I exposed the police, because I embarrassed the police, they came after me then. Well, they were thanking me that same morning that he pleaded guilty. I recorded a phone call with 2 detective sergeants. And one of them turned around and said to me, Joanne, everyone in this office from the DI downwards knows it's because of you. We are where we are today, and we can't thank you enough. And then they go and arrest me a couple of months later.
Well, wait, before we get to that, now the 2 women who gave their children to Watkins, did they go to trial?
Yeah. They were on trial all together. All 3 of them were on trial together.
And they all pled guilty? Watkins pled... Yeah. The other 2 pled guilty as well?
One pled guilty very early on.
Okay.
One pled guilty very early on. They were held on remand in prison for a year before it actually went to trial. And so one pled guilty straight away. The other one kept insisting she wasn't guilty. And it wasn't until the second day of the trial that Watkins and the other one pleaded guilty, and that basically cut an end to the trial beginning.
And, okay, the one who pled guilty right away, what did she get?
14 years.
14 years. And what about the one who pled guilty second day of trial? 17 years. Oh, brother. Yeah. And Watkins only got 29 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
but you know what?
Yeah.
That is a lot of... consider in the UK... people do not get very long prison terms for some reason. So when he was convicted for 29 years, that was a shock to everyone because we're so used to people getting away with only a couple of years or 8 years maximum. We're so used to that.
Yeah, here in the States, too, people should realize the average sentence for conviction in a child rape case is 8 years. and they only serve about 3.5 to 4 years on that.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
so it's the same there.
Yeah,
oh
people think that these guys, they say, oh, they should get the death penalty. People think they're getting 40, 50 years. It's 8 years is the average.
They're not at all. That's ridiculous.
Okay, so now they arrest you.
Yeah.
Now what happens? Describe that. They take you into jail. What happens there?
But it was all such a shock, and I thought I was just thinking.
Did I lose you? Yeah, I think I might have lost connection here. The Skype connection. No, we still seem to be connected to Skype. Joanne, can you hear me? Oh, yeah, we did lose the Skype. Okay. So we're going to try and get that back right now. Problem with the Skype connection. Shouldn't be too long. I'll try. We could try. We're here with Joanne Mjadzelics, who was the girlfriend of this character, Ian Watkins.
Hello?
Yeah, hi. How are you?
Sorry, what happened there?
Just lost the connection. Skype is very unreliable, as you are well aware. You know. Now they come and they arrest you.
Okay.
Now you must have been fit to be tied.
Sorry, what was that?
I says when they arrest you and they're taking you into custody, you must have been fit to be tied.
Yeah, I was, but I was more. I wasn't going crazy or anything, but I was just kind of thinking, what the hell are you talking about? I was miffed. I was more miffed.
Now these cops that actually put the cuffs on you, had you dealt with them before?
They didn't put cuffs on me.
Okay.
No, they didn't cuff me or anything. No.
But the cops who made the arrest, these were cops you knew that you had dealt with prior?
No, I'd never dealt with them before because these were from my local police station.
Okay.
The cops that I had dealt with previously these were detectives that came to arrest me. I'd not dealt with them before.
Okay.
I'd dealt with one of them before because I'd gone to them about harassment. I was being harassed. As soon as Ian Watkins was arrested, I was harassed and my family were harassed horrifically online by his crazy fans. So I had gone to the police about this harassment, and so I recognised one of them because I said to her, "Oh, I recognise you. I came to see you about the harassment." So I recognised one of them, but there weren't any of them that had previously been involved where I'd gone to see with the evidence.
Okay, now they take you in. Did you get out on bail right away?
Yeah.
How much was the bail?
Nothing.
Okay.
It's nothing. I was just released on bail. No bail. There's no bail in England. So I was just released back home. I had to wait. They charged me that night. They had to work out what to charge me with because they really wanted to charge me with something. So because they wanted to discredit me in any way they could. Because I'm the only witness against the police. I'm the only witness against the police and their failings. They had to discredit me. So they had to get me arrested.
So they charge you with possession of these 3 child pornography images?
Yeah, and no, it was 7 charges in total. 7 charges in total.
Okay, describe what were the 7 charges?
There were 4 that he had sent, but I only got 3 of them.
Okay.
And there was 1 that he'd sent on Skype. And then they said that I had sent him indecent images, but I hadn't, and it was proved in court that I hadn't. So that was 7 in total.
Now, the ones that were sent to you, now did you go out and hire a lawyer right away?
Yeah, because I thought, do you know what? No, they're not getting away with this. So I contacted a lawyer that I dealt with previously, one that I had gone to about the harassment.
Okay.
And I had him come to the station. Yeah.
Okay, and then did you go to trial? What happened with that?
I went on trial in January 2015.
Okay, now this should be pretty simple because you could have called the police officers the woman who looked at the pictures and said, "No, that's not a child. Take your evidence back and go away."
Yeah, and what has happened with that is the IPCC, the Independent Police Complaints Commission. Just a second, Ed. My son's due to go to work, and I don't think he's out of. Kyle, are you out of bed?
You know what? I'll play a commercial right now. Let me play an ad. That's
I need
okay.
to make his lunch for work. Sorry, he works nights. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to play a little ad, okay, and then we'll pick back up here with Joanne Mjadzelics right after these messages. Okay, got to make some lunch for the son. This is your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. And if you're enjoying this show right now, there's more. You can get more. You can go to the Ed Opperman YouTube channel, and you could subscribe there. And we have archives of all of our past shows for over the past 3 years, about 200, 300 shows. You can also go to the Opperman Report Spreaker channel, and you could follow us there. Again, a ton of shows, about 300 shows on there. And whenever we do an impromptu show, an emergency type broadcast that we do during the week occasionally, you'll get an email notifying you of breaking news and spontaneous broadcasts that we may do during the week. You can also go to oppermanreport.com and become a member. If you become a member, you help support the free archives on Spreaker and YouTube, and you help support the free shows on Friday evening and on Saturday evening. Each of these shows, Friday evening and Saturday evening, are carried for free on 7 internet stations, okay? So you help support that, but also, too, at OppermanReport.com in the members section, we have exclusive content. Shows that are recorded during the week that are only available to members. So please check out OppermanReport.com and help support the show.
The son of a Polish immigrant who grew up in a Brooklyn tenement, Bernie Sanders. He went to public schools, then college, where the work of his life began, fighting injustice and inequality, speaking truth to power. Bernie moved to Vermont, won election and praise as one of America's best mayors. In Congress, Bernie stood up for working families and for principle, opposing the Iraq War, supporting veterans. Now he's taking on Wall Street and a corrupt political system that holds up a rigged economy. Bernie's campaign is funded by over 1 million small contributions from people like you. He's fighting for living wages, equal pay, and tuition-free public colleges. Bernie Sanders.
People are sick and tired of establishment politics, and they want real change.
Bernie Sanders. Husband, father, grandfather. An honest leader. Building a movement with you to give us a future to believe in.
I'm Bernie Sanders, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bernie 2016.
Check out strawmanmusic.com. Sean Duff is our webmaster here at the Opperman Report, and he's a very talented musician. He's part of a band called Strawman. They're based up there in Canada. Don't hold that against them. These are like-minded folks. If you like the shows you hear on the Opperman Report, you'll like the music that they have over at strawmanmusic.com.
Enough is enough. Wall Street's greed and illegal behavior drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the 1930s. And then, after getting a huge taxpayer bailout because they were too big to fail, it turns out that 3 out of the 4 largest banks are bigger today than they were before we bailed them out. That's crazy. I'm Bernie Sanders. My plan: break up the big banks who are strangling our economy and make them pay their fair share of taxes. Then we can invest in the middle class, expand Social Security, and provide universal college education. I'll rein in Wall Street behavior so they can't crash our economy again. Will they like me? No. Will they begin to play by the rules if I'm president? You better believe it. I'm Bernie Sanders, Democratic candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bernie 2016.
You know, you can get a copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator, if you go to my website, emailrevealer.com. Now, this is a limited edition book, okay? And you can get a signed copy of this book, and it'll be personally autographed to you or whoever you want to give the book to as a gift. Once you have my signature on that book, you can copy the signature and put it on checks and pass them all over the world. Emailrevealer.com. Get a copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator.
He's fought injustice and inequality his whole life. Bernie Sanders. As a college student, he was arrested for challenging segregated housing. Bernie marched with Dr. King and thousands of others for civil rights. In Congress, Bernie stood up for working families on health care and jobs. Now he's taking on Wall Street banks and a corrupt political system that keeps in place a rigged economy. Bernie Sanders, a reformer who believes in ending racial profiling and mass incarceration so the justice system works for everyone. Bernie Sanders.
There is no president who will fight harder to end institutional racism and reform our broken criminal justice system.
Bernie Sanders, an honest leader building a movement with you to give us a future to believe in.
I'm Bernie Sanders, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bernie 2016.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. We had lost Joanne Mjadzelics there for a second, bad Skype connection again, so I'm going to give her another shot here. She was just trying to call me a second ago, so let's see if we can get through this time. Saying it is an internet connection problem. So, Joanne, how are you? Okay.
Hiya, the connection kept going because I was at the other side of the house.
Okay.
In the kitchen, so the connection keeps going.
All right, well, we got you back now. And we are live on the air. So now,
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm so sorry. It's my son. I had to make his lunch for work because he works nights.
Well, let me ask a question there too, because someone was saying, did you lose custody of your son over this?
No, that's another thing. That's another lie that is out there. That's another vicious, horrible lie. And that was part of the harassment that I tried to get the police to deal with. And the police eventually had her in for questioning because she was spreading this lie that I had. My son's never been out of my custody. Never. Not all his life at all. The only time he wasn't with me was when I was in the army.
Okay, and how old is he? He's like an adult almost, right?
He's 19.
You want to lose custody at 19. You want him out of the house.
Oh, my God, I've tried.
Come take him, right? Okay, my daughter's 15, so, I got a few more years.
Yeah, but I bet your daughter does things for herself, doesn't she?
She's a good kid. Yeah, I have no problems with her. Now, so now they arrest you. You hire a lawyer. What was your defense?
I hadn't done anything. I hadn't done anything, but the thing was, what I'd had to do by 2011. When I'd been trying to get him arrested, I suddenly thought in 2011, I've got to change my tactic here with him. I've got to, rather than, because running off and crying and going to the police had not worked before. Me running off crying and saying I don't want to see him again hadn't worked. So I thought, I've got to change this. I've got to change my tactic with him. I've got to make him trust me. I've got to start saying the things that he wants me to say, because then it will get him on side and then I can control the situation, because I needed to gain some sort of control. Because I realised that me running away for months at a time wasn't doing any good, because all that was happening in those months that I was away, he was escalating, and I didn't know what he was doing. So that's why, and I told the police this. I told the police in May 2011, I told the chief constable and whoever read that email, and the detective sergeant who I spoke to at that time as well, that is what I'd done, and I'd had to agree to all sorts of things in order to gain his trust and to trap him. And I knew that I had to gain control of the situation, and that's why at the end of 2011 as well, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't put myself through seeing him anymore. I couldn't do it to myself, even though the way I was doing it was because I was working as an escort, and an escort's job is to basically become whatever character your client wants you to be, be whatever fantasy your client wants you to be.
Sure.
And I was able to switch myself off. So it wasn't Joanne, it was Nikki that was seeing these clients. So in my head, I was not Joanne talking to Ian Watkins. He was just I treated him as though he was an escort client. That was my way of dealing with it. I would just switch myself off and think, and I switched off all emotions, and I just had to deal with him as though he was just a very nasty escort client. So that's how I dealt with him. And I said to the police that I'd had to say all these things in order to trap him, because I felt that I needed control. I needed to control the situation. I didn't want to run away and have him doing God knows what to God knows who without me knowing about it because I wasn't around. But if I knew about it, because he trusted me and he confessed things to me, if I knew, I could report it. And that's what I was doing.
Now, what period of time are you describing right now when you were like acting undercover?
That was only from 2011 to 2012 because previously, before that, I just ran away from him.
Okay. But now again, though, you're on trial, right? And you're being charged with possession of these 4 images.
Yeah. That
they found through phone records, and I guess wasn't on your laptop or your computer, though.
My laptop had one that I'd kept for the police, and I'd put it on a flash drive. But I'd put it on a flash drive with all the other evidence against him, and gave it to the police in November. When I was interviewed as a witness by police on the 1st of November 2012, I had everything ready, and I said, "Look, everything's on this flash drive from my computer. Everything's on here." And they took my computer anyway. So I said, "Everything's on here. I've saved it all for you." And they couldn't believe the amount of stuff I'd got on him. They couldn't believe all the information that I was giving them. My witness statement on video was a 6-hour interview.
And that was all used in the prosecution of him?
That would have been used in the prosecution of him, but he pled guilty.
Now, during that time when you were cooperating with the police to get him prosecuted and you were given a statement, did you ever have any contact with the prosecuting attorney's office?
No.
Because it seems to me now you're being prosecuted, right?
Yeah.
Did your lawyer go and negotiate with the prosecuting attorney?
Yes, what we wanted to do, we applied for an abusive process, which meant that it was a malicious prosecution. So we applied to do that, but because my solicitor hadn't done enough to get to that, we had a date in court. Me and my barrister, my Queen's Counsel, my QC, had a date in court in Cardiff for me to go for the abusive process hearing. We got to that date, and because my solicitor hadn't got all the paperwork in order and everything that was needed for that, we had to cancel that and just go for trial because we knew we'd win at trial. We knew that I would be found not guilty. So I just said, no, everything will come out at trial. We'll just go for that instead.
But there were no negotiations before trial?
Oh, yeah, it was in negotiations with them, yeah. And actually, I would scream every time I had a hearing in court. You know, you have so many hearings before you have a trial. You have to attend court on so many occasions and, you know, to report any changes or anything. And I remember the judge was pretty much on my side the whole way through, even before the trial, because I remember the first hearing that I had, she actually said to the prosecution, well, what about all these times that she actually went to the police with this? And she said, what about that? She said, don't forget, I've read her interviews. And the prosecution said, oh, we're nothing to do with the Independent Police Complaints Commission. We're nothing to do with that. They know all about that. And she said, well, I want everything with me by the 21st of May. She gave them a deadline to get everything that the IPCC had to her, which backed up everything that I was saying, basically.
But it seems to me that any fair-minded prosecutor handed this case would immediately say, but the evidence you're using against her is evidence she tried to turn into the police.
You know what? They lied in court. On another one of my hearings, the judge said, well, do you have this image that she took to the police? And they said no. And I screamed from the dock. I screamed, that is a lie. You do have it because I gave it to the police and I've got paperwork confirming that the police have it and the police have confirmed what was on it. So I have documentation proving that I actually gave the police this image. It describes the image on the paperwork as well.
On the police report, it describes the image?
Yeah, on documentation saying that I had voluntarily given them this image.
This is amazing that this prosecutor would still proceed with this case.
They were lying. They were saying they didn't even have the image, and I had to scream, you do. And I was ready to pull it out at trial, that piece of paper, to prove it, but I didn't need to.
Now how long was your trial? How many days?
Total 4 days, and then the last day the judge was away, so she couldn't come in on the Friday, so it was finished on the Thursday, and then we had a long break for the weekend, and then on the Wednesday the verdict was given. The following Wednesday.
You had a judge or a jury?
A jury.
You had a jury?
Yeah.
This prosecutor took this to a jury trial, a 4-day jury trial on this kind of evidence.
Yeah. I mean, my QC, my barrister.
Yeah, what did he say?
Actually, he charges a lot of money, and I contacted, as soon as I was arrested, I contacted him myself. I didn't wait for my solicitor to choose a barrister. I wanted the best. So I went to this barrister because I knew that he had dealt with police corruption before. And as soon as he saw my story, as soon as he saw everything, he said to his assistant, "This woman's been set up."
Yeah.
And he took my case for free. He did it for free. So he knew, straight away he believed everything that I was saying. And he actually, to put a picture in the jury's mind, he chose a case of where undercover police in Britain had got into a lot of trouble for having affairs with animal rights protesters and having babies with them and things, basically living a double life. You know how deep undercover people are? So he put a picture in the jury's mind. Think about all those undercover police officers who are now in trouble because they had relationships with these protesters, having babies with them and everything, and they were undercover, and there was some reason why they were all in trouble for that. And so that's how he put the picture in the jury's mind and said that that's what I was doing, because there is a legal defence if you're found in possession of certain images, if you are using those images in order to trap someone, i.e. an undercover work, then that's a defence. And that's what I was doing. I was doing the police's job for them because they just kept burying everything.
Well, yeah. Well, here in the States, you know, if you're come into possession of child pornography, you have to take it down to the local police department as quickly as you can. You know, but once you've done that, your hands are clean. It's over. You know, once you've made that attempt.
Well, that's what I tried to do.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I tried to do. And as I say, there is evidence of me voluntarily giving the police all the stuff that I had on him. There's evidence of that in black and white.
Yeah, see, I can see the police being embarrassed. Yeah, the police being embarrassed and they want to cause you trouble. But the prosecutor, why would the prosecutor go along with that?
That's the point that I made.
Yeah.
And another point that I made in court as well was that I know there are hundreds of, I'm not exaggerating when I say hundreds of people, hundreds of people knew about Ian Watkins because every single girl that he had contact with, whether he'd known her for a day or 5 years, every single person knew what was happening with him, what he was into, because a fan of his had met him 2 weeks previously, and she had posted online screen grabs of conversations that she had had with Ian Watkins 2 weeks after meeting him, and they are discussing abusing the baby boy that he was convicted of raping. They're discussing raping that baby boy. And she put these conversations online for whatever was in her head to do that. So I brought up that fact, and another girl sold a story to a newspaper using screen grabs of her conversation with him about raping her daughter. So she sold a story to a newspaper too. So I brought up this in court, and I said, what about all these other people? There's people that have put stuff online proving that they had these conversations with them. And one of them has said that he had sent her so much stuff, so much sick stuff, that it took her 7 months to send to the police. In other words, she held on to that until after his arrest. She held on to it until 7 months later when he was arrested, and she thought, I better come out now and send this. So why are these people not arrested? And I've also seen transcripts of police interviews, actual transcripts of police interviews with 2 other women, where they were being questioned about the images and things that they had sent between them and Ian Watkins. They're being questioned about that. So I brought up on the stand, why am I the only one that has been arrested here when I was the only one that went to the police repeatedly about this? Why have I seen police transcripts of interviews? And the prosecutor said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I said, no one else has been arrested because no one else has exposed the police failings, have they? And he didn't know what to do. And we took a break at that point, and he discussed what I was talking about with the detectives that were there in court. And they were going to rebut what I was saying, but they decided against it. Of course they decided against it, because they knew that would open up a whole new can of worms and bring the press into questioning, why was she arrested? Why was she the only one arrested when you've clearly had other people in the police station about sending and receiving images between them and Ian Watkins? Why was Joanne the only one arrested? And she was the only one that went against him, and the only one that obviously exposed police failings because of my repeated attempts to go to the police about it.
Okay, so now you're out. The case is settled. You're found not guilty.
Completely not guilty of everything, yeah.
Right. But now you're continuing to make complaints against the police, and you're cooperating with an investigation of police misconduct or police incompetence. What are the charges, actually?
Well, the investigation into the police began in June 2013 because I was convinced by the police in January 2013 not to make a complaint against them. But I thought, no. Forget that, I am. So I made complaints against 3 different police forces in June 2013. So the investigation has been going on now for nearly 3 years. And I was interviewed the first time with the Police Complaints Commission in February 2014. And it was March 2014 that I was arrested.
Are you living in the same place that you've been living all along?
Yeah.
Are you experiencing any kind of police harassment or surveillance? Yes. Go ahead.
Yes.
I know you are. Go ahead.
They have been stealing, because where I live at the back of the main house. So the mail all comes to a mailbox at the front. And the police have been stealing my mail, and I know they've been stealing my mail because I've been in contact with my local MP for quite some time, for maybe about 3 years now. I've been in contact with my local MP about the problems with my local police force helping to cover up the child abuse. And she has sent me letters back and forth. I've had meeting with her. And so they knew that I had been in contact with her. And what happened one day, I collected my mail, and there was a big envelope addressed to my son with a House of Commons. It was a House of Commons envelope, basically. And I thought, why is Kyle getting a letter from the House of Commons? It's me who gets letters from the House of Commons all the time. So I opened it, and it was Kyle's exam results inside that envelope and a compliment slip from my MP, Rosie Winterton, saying this was sent to my address by mistake. So what the police had been doing, because there's no other explanation for this, the police had been taking my mail out of my mailbox, reading it, and obviously taking Rosie Winterton, the MP, the Member of Parliament, taking her mail out too, to see what we've been probably sending each other, and put them back in the wrong put my post back into her letterbox instead of back in mine. There's no way that mistake could have happened. We're on a different postman's route. There's no way it could have happened. My MP, Rosie Winterton, contacted the chief executive of Royal Mail, and he personally investigated. Well, he got his team to investigate it. But we knew it was not a mistake that Royal Mail had made. It's not a mistake that they'd made. Someone had physically taken my mail out of my mailbox and taken hers and got them mixed up when they'd put it back.
Now, if she's an MP, can't she look into who's in the police department is surveilling you?
Well, what happened, this is what happens a lot of the time in the UK, and possibly the same happens in the US, although I think the internal investigations of the police in the US are a lot better than here. I don't know.
I wouldn't say that.
You're laughing. Is that not the case?
Oh, yeah, they're great here. You kidding me? We have no problems here at all.
Well, it can't be as bad as here, flipping heck. But what happened with that, I made a complaint to the Police Complaints Commission, which is supposed to be an independent Police Complaints Commission. That's what it stands for, Independent Police Complaints Commission.
Right.
It's supposed to be separated from the police entirely. But what happened when I made the complaint about mine and my MP's mail being stolen by the police? We knew it was them. They were investigated by the police themselves. It was an internal investigation by the police themselves. So we all know what happens there. Nothing happened here.
Yeah.
No, nothing's happened here. Well, what else happened? How else do you explain it?
Well, what do you have? What is happening next? And we have I guess the next thing is the police corruption investigation. Where does that stand?
Well, I get updates every month about that, and I actually spoke to the main investigator the other day on the phone. I had a long chat, and he says that it's all finished. The final report has gone to their legal department for proofreading to see, because they don't want anyone to come back at them with to file a further complaint against them.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like a counterclaim against them. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's some officers that should be at least on charges of perversion of the course of justice and misconduct in public office, at least. And that's criminal charges. I don't want them getting a slap on the wrist, because what happened, one of the police forces involved with the woman who received 17 years, I reported that she was horrifically abusing her baby, and this was told to me by Ian Watkins, and I contacted her as soon as he was out of my sight. I contacted this woman, and I put it to her. I put everything to her, and she did not deny it. And I said, please, I need to know if you're doing this for money, don't do it. Because I thought, please, let nothing have happened. And if she's just doing it for money, don't do it, because he hasn't got any money. And I said to her, please, if you're doing this for money, don't do it, because he hasn't got any money. He will not pay you. Don't do anything. And she replied, when I said, how much is he paying you? She replied, nothing. And then a smiley face emoji. And so I gave the police access to everything. I said, look, this is a conversation that was had in Twitter direct messages. I gave them access to my Twitter account, gave them access to my Facebook, my email accounts. I gave them screen grabs as well, so that they could show that I hadn't deleted anything, and the screen grabs continued on the conversation, so there's no gap in the conversation, so I hadn't deleted anything. I gave them access to everything. They saw there in black and white that this woman, she had been admitting to having Skype conversations with Ian Watkins. It turned out that she had video chats with Ian Watkins as well, and abused her baby on camera for him. The police investigation into that police force found that they had failed in duties because they had enough evidence from me in order for them to seize her electronic equipment, and then they would have found everything. But they failed to do that. They visited her at home after my complaint in October 2012. They visited this woman at home, chatted with her. She denied even having any contact with him, even though they'd already seen evidence that she'd admitted to it. She denied everything. She said, I don't know why Joanne's doing this. I really don't know why she's doing this. And they left that baby with her for a further 7 weeks, of abuse on that baby, because...
Yeah, there has to be something else going on here. Yeah.
And when I was finally interviewed as a witness, finally after 4 years, on the 1st of November 2012, and I gave the police everything that I'd gathered, and I told them everything. And the reason it was a 6-hour witness interview is because I had so much to say. And they didn't know about... And I said to them, are you here about... And I named the woman. And they said, who's that? And I said, what are you talking about? I reported it 3 weeks ago. I thought that's what you were here about. What are you here about? And they said, we're just here to ask you what you know about Ian Watkins. And I said, but I reported it 3 weeks. And I heard the officer, when we had to change tapes, because each tape is about 2 hours long, so we had to change tapes. So he went into the next room to change the videotape, and I heard him through the wall on the phone to his boss, and he's saying, he's got another effing baby. She's telling us about another baby. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? How does he not know about this? What other baby? What other baby? How many babies are there? What are you talking about? They didn't know.
Joanne, we only have about 30 seconds left.
Oh, God, sorry.
No, that's okay. What do you want to leave us with before we go?
Oh, I don't know, really.
Yeah,
I'm just tired of all the lies out there about me. I'm tired of people twisting the truth when the truth's been proven in court. Yeah. People are still twisting the truth and putting the lie out there that I had my son taken off me. It never happened, ever. That's a vicious lie by his fans.
Well, I would say this, okay? You got to really stand guard, okay? Anything comes up in the future, I want you to call me up right away. We'll put you right back on the air. Anything we could do to help you bring attention to your situation there.
Okay, thank you. And I'm so sorry about the interruption earlier when I had to...
No, that's fine. Joanne Mjadzelics, a real hero in this story of getting Ian Watkins prosecuted. Joanne, thank you so much.
Thank you.